My name is Ethan. I'm 38, a mechanical engineer, and I live in Austin, Texas. On paper, my life looked fine. I had a stable job, a decent house in a quiet neighborhood, and a wife, Megan, who I believed was my best friend. We'd been married for almost 9 years. We met in college. She studied architecture, I studied mechanical engineering, and we bonded over a shared obsession with terrible coffee and 90s sitcoms. Back then, we used to joke that we balanced each other out. She brought the color and I brought the structure. But balance doesn't last forever. Not always. The day everything started unraveling wasn't some dramatic, movie-style confrontation. It was a Thursday, a random, normal, boring Thursday. I had wrapped up a stressful meeting early and figured I'd do something nice. Swing by that new Italian place Megan mentioned a few times. La Costa, I think it was called. She'd said her coworkers had been raving about it, and she seemed excited about trying it, though we never got around to going. So I drove over, thinking I'd grab dinner for both of us, surprise her a bit, maybe even salvage the mood from the night before, which had ended with us sitting in the same room, saying nothing for hours. The parking lot was nearly full. A good sign, I thought. When I stepped inside, the place was warm and buzzing with the kind of quiet energy restaurants have just before the dinner rush peaks. The hostess smiled at me and asked if I was waiting on someone. I said no, I was just picking up a to-go order. She nodded and told me to wait by the bar. And that's when I saw her, Megan, sitting in a corner booth by the window. Her back was mostly turned to me, but I'd know her silhouette anywhere. Shoulders slightly hunched, one leg curled under the other, the way she played with her straw when she was deep in conversation. But she wasn't alone. Josh was with her. I recognized him instantly. He was one of her co-workers at the design firm where she worked. They'd been on a few projects together, and she brought up his name a lot. Too often, now that I think about it. Josh said this. Josh helped me with that layout. Josh's taste is so polished. I never liked the way she talked about him, not because she was enthusiastic, but because it felt too familiar. I stood still, almost hidden behind a column, watching them. It felt wrong, like I was spying, but I couldn't look away. She was laughing. Not the polite social laugh she gave to clients or acquaintances. This was the full-body kind, the kind that made her tilt her head back a little. Josh leaned in closer. Megan reached out and brushed something off his shirt, then adjusted his tie with a slow, practiced gesture. That did it. I stepped forward, each foot feeling heavier than the last. They didn't notice me at first. I was maybe 5 feet from the table when Megan looked up, and for a split second her smile froze. She blinked like her brain was trying to catch up, and then the corners of her mouth twitched upward again. "Ethan?" she said, startled, her voice a little too high. Josh turned around, and to his credit he looked confused, not smug, not guilty, just confused. I didn't even look at him. I reached into my pocket, pulled off my wedding ring, and placed it on the table. It landed with a soft clink on the wood between their wine glasses. "I guess you need this more than I do now," I said, my voice low but even. Then I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard the chair scrape as Megan **tee up. "Ethan, wait, what are you doing? Seriously?" Her heels clicked against the hardwood as she followed me toward the door. I kept walking. "You're blowing this way out of proportion," she called out, grabbing my arm. "We were just talking about a project. Josh told a joke. That's all." I turned back to look at her. "You adjusted his tie, Megan. You were laughing like I haven't seen you laugh with me in months. And I'm supposed to believe this is just a business dinner?" She scoffed and let go of my arm. "You're jealous for no reason." Again. That word again hung in the air like smoke. I took a breath and tried not to let my voice crack. "I'm not making this up. I saw you. The way you touched him. The way you looked at him. It's not what you think, Ethan. It never is, right?" Josh had come up behind her at this point, holding his jacket awkwardly, clearly unsure whether to stay or disappear. "I should go," he muttered. "This feels personal." "No," Megan said quickly, spinning around. "Just go back inside. I'll be there in a minute." The way she said it made me feel like a problem, an interruption to their evening. She turned back to me, trying to keep her voice calm. "I told you, This isn't what it looks like. I swear, Ethan. It's just dinner. I wanted to believe her. I really did. I wanted this to be one of those misunderstandings people laugh about years later. But my gut told me something different. I'd never been the suspicious type. If anything, I was too trusting. Megan always said I was loyal to a fault. I never checked her phone. Never questioned where she was. And maybe that was the problem. The trust one had? That blind, unconditional trust? It shattered that night. Not because of what I saw, but because of how easily she tried to explain it away. The way she looked me in the eye and told me I was imagining things, making something out of nothing. I walked away, got in my car, and sat in silence with the engine running. I didn't drive home right away. I just sat there, staring out at the street as people passed by, carrying their takeout, laughing with their families, couples holding hands. The kind of normal night I thought I was about to have. The kind of night that now felt completely out of reach. I thought about the way Megan had smiled at Josh. The way she used to smile at me. And suddenly it wasn't just about tonight. It was about all the little things from the past few months that didn't sit right but that I'd pushed aside, chalked up to stress or work or the ebb and flow of long-term marriage. That's when the seed of suspicion planted itself. And I knew I couldn't unsee what I'd just seen. Something was wrong. And this wasn't over. I drove for a long time that night. No music, no destination, just me and the sound of tires rolling over asphalt. It's strange how quiet a car feels when your mind is screaming. I passed neighborhoods we'd driven through together, late-night diners we used to visit after movies, and every landmark seemed like a reminder of something I wasn't sure was real anymore. Eventually, I pulled into a grocery store parking lot and just sat there, staring at nothing. That was when my brain started replaying every odd moment over the past few months. Like someone was finally hitting unmute on all the signals I had ignored. It was subtle at first. Megan used to hate staying late at work. She'd complain if she was there past 6, always calling me on the drive home to vent. But around 6 months ago, that changed. Suddenly, she didn't mind the quiet time in the office, or she had a presentation that needed polishing, or there was some deadline she couldn't delegate. Then came the trips. Chicago, Dallas, Houston, places her firm never used to send her. I remember the first one. She packed like she was going to a beach resort, not a 2-day architecture conference. I made a dumb joke about it, planning to woo some skyscrapers. She laughed, but not the real kind. More like a cover-up. At the time, I thought I was being insecure. Yeah? I'm not so sure. She also started working out. That one hit me hardest in hindsight. Megan always said she hated the gym. I'd rather walk the dog or clean the house, she'd say. And then one day, boom, she had a gym bag, cute matching sets, and a new yoga app. She was suddenly all about wellness and self-care. At first, I supported it. I encouraged her. She'd smile and say she was doing it for herself. But deep down, it didn't feel like that. It felt like she was preparing for something or someone. And then there was her phone. God, the phone. Always in her hand. Always face down. Always locked. It used to be that we knew each other's passcodes without even thinking about it. But she changed hers, and when I asked, she said, "You wouldn't want me looking through your phone, would you?" I remember laughing it off at the time, even though I didn't have anything to hide. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who demanded passwords and checked her texts. But now I couldn't stop wondering, what was I supposed to believe? That all of these changes were coincidence? The worst part was the girlfriends. Megan had always had a tight-knit group of friends. Rachel, Dana, Claire, I knew them, I liked them. We'd have barbecues, wine nights, casual game nights where I'd pretend to lose at Pictionary just to make Megan laugh. But then, out of nowhere, she started talking about new girls from work. Except I never met any of them. I'd ask, "Hey, which one is Emma?" and she'd say something vague like, "Oh, she couldn't make it tonight." Or, "They're more her friends than mine, honestly." And I'd believe her, because what else was I going to do? Question my wife every time she went out? Now I'm realizing I should have. One night stood out more than the rest. About 3 weeks before the restaurant incident, Megan came home late from a team dinner. Her makeup was still fresh, lips slightly smudged like she'd reapplied just before getting out of the car. She was unusually quiet, walked straight to the bedroom, and didn't say much when I asked how dinner went. "Fine," she said. Josh was being ridiculous again, as usual. Josh. That name. It had started to become a fixture in her vocabulary even when it didn't fit. He wasn't just a colleague anymore, he was a reference point. Josh likes this. Or Josh says that. Or Josh recommended this book. And every time she said his name, it chipped away at something inside me, even though I couldn't explain why at the time. I remember lying in bed next to her that night, staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me. I wanted to ask, point blank, "Are you cheating on me?" But I didn't, because if she said no, and I was wrong, I'd feel like a fool. And if she said yes, I wasn't ready to know. That was the truth. It's amazing what your mind will do to protect you from pain. It rewrites things in real time, turns gut instincts into overthinking, nervous feelings into bad moods, and red flags into pink ones. Barely noticeable, not worth a fight. But now that I'd seen her with him, seen the look in her eyes, the casual and asterisk Macy, it was like someone had removed a blindfold I didn't know I was wearing. I drove home eventually, sometime past midnight. The house was dark, the porch lights still on. Megan was already in bed. I stood in the doorway and watched her sleep, wondering what she dreamed about. Was it us? Was it someone else? I crawled into bed beside her and felt the distance. Not physical. She was just a few inches away, but something deeper, like a wall had formed between us and we'd both quietly agreed not to acknowledge it. That night I didn't sleep. I just lay there in the silence, wide awake, staring into the dark, and asking myself a question I'd never thought I'd have to ask. Who is my wife, really? A few days passed after the night at La Costa, and Megan acted like nothing had happened. She came home at the usual time, made dinner like always, pasta with that creamy mushroom sauce I loved, and asked about my day with that same light, practiced tone. I played along. I smiled when I had to, nodded when appropriate. But inside, it felt like someone had dropped a stone into my chest, and it hadn't stopped sinking since. I didn't bring up the restaurant. Not again. I wanted to. I wanted to ask why she adjusted his tie, why she looked at him like that. But I knew what she'd say. It was nothing. A joke. A misunderstanding. I was jealous again. And if I pushed too hard, she'd flip the narrative. Turn me into the paranoid husband, the controlling one. I'd seen her do it with others. How she could shift a conversation so smoothly, make herself the victim without even raising her voice. So instead, I waited. It happened the following Tuesday. I was working from home because I had a plumbing guy coming by. Megan had left her laptop on the kitchen counter before heading to work. She usually took it with her, especially since she started working on that big account a few months ago. But that morning, she must have been in a rush. I didn't plan to snoop. I swear. I had an invoice to print, and mine was out of ink. That was it. I opened her laptop just to access the printer. But then something popped up. A message. See you at the hotel, same room. Can't wait, red heart. At first, my brain refused to process it. I thought it might have been spam or a marketing email or maybe even something from a group chat. Then I saw the name Josh, and it all clicked. My hands were cold as I moved the cursor. I clicked the chat window, some off-brand messaging app one didn't even recognize. It looked like they had been using it for a while. The thread went back weeks, maybe months. The deeper I scrolled, the worse it got. Photos, selfies in hotel rooms, candid *TS of them smiling at each other like a couple on vacation. Messages like, "You looked amazing last night. Can't stop thinking about you. Wish you were waking up next to me again. I'll tell Ethan I've got another meeting. We'll have the whole evening." Every message felt like a punch to the chest. I remember laughing, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd, this surreal, almost cinematic confirmation of every fear I'd been trying to suppress. All the signs I brushed off, every instinct I'd silenced, had been screaming the truth the whole time, and I ignored them. Not anymore. I didn't say anything when she got home that night. I didn't mention the message. I didn't bring up the hotel. I just watched her. The way she walked in like everything was normal. She kissed me on the cheek and asked if I wanted to watch something after dinner. The audacity of it made my skin crawl. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted to give her a chance to come clean. She didn't. That Friday night, I brought it up. We were sitting on the couch, some show playing in the background, and I turned the TV off mid-episode. She looked at me, puzzled. "Hey, I was watching that. Were you really?" I asked, my voice low. She narrowed her eyes. "What's that supposed to mean?" I didn't answer right away. I reached over to the coffee table and picked up her laptop. I opened it, pulled up the app, and turned the screen toward her. The color drained from her face. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The screen spoke louder than I ever could. Megan sat frozen, her lips parting slightly like she was about to speak, but no words came out. Her eyes flicked across the messages. Then she looked at me. She started. I can explain. Of course she could. Go ahead, I said. Explain how you've been lying to me for months. Explain the hotel. The pictures. The messages. I'm listening. She stared at the screen for a long time before finally closing the laptop slowly, like she thought it might undo what I'd seen. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said, barely above a whisper. I laughed. That's your defense? She started crying, not the big dramatic kind, but the quiet, shaking kind, like her body knew what she did but her brain was still catching up. I was lonely, she said. I didn't feel seen anymore. You were always working, always tired. I started talking to Josh more. It felt good to be wanted. I stared at her, numb. So you decided to sleep with him? I didn't plan on it, she said quickly. It just happened. And then it kept happening. I shook my head slowly. And you told me I was imagining things. You made me feel crazy. I didn't want to hurt you, she said, wiping her face. But you did, I said. You didn't just hurt me. You betrayed me. You mocked everything we built. She started to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. I'm sorry, she said over and over as if repetition would make it real. Please, Ethan, I'll end it. I'll block him. I'll do whatever it takes. I didn't say anything. Because I didn't know what hurt more, that she cheated or that she let me doubt myself for so long. We sat in silence for what felt like an hour. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator and her soft sniffles. I got up eventually and walked to the kitchen. I needed space. I needed air. I needed to not be near her. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, wondering what kind of person she really was. The messages weren't just about S**X. They were emotional. In asterisk mate. They talked about things we never did anymore, dreams, books, movies, memories. It wasn't just a fling. She had built a second relationship in the shadows of our marriage. And now that the lights were on, there was no hiding from what was crawling in the dark. After Megan's confession, everything changed, but not in the way you'd think. There were no big fights. No screaming. Just silence. We lived in the same house but felt like strangers. We still passed each other in the hallway. Still asked the surface-level questions, did you eat? What time are you home? But it was like we were playing characters in a play that had already ended. She kept saying she was sorry. Kept trying to act normal. She even made my favorite coffee one morning and left it on the counter like that could somehow balance the betrayal. It didn't. The worst part wasn't even the affair anymore. It was the way she tried to pretend we could just move on. Like trust was a light switch. Like I was supposed to forget months of deception because she decided it was time to be honest. I needed clarity. I needed more than just her version of the truth. So I started digging. I'm not proud of it. But I had to. Because trust wasn't an option anymore, only facts. I remembered my buddy Marcus, a guy I went to college with. He worked in corporate security now, mostly boring stuff, firewalls, threat detection, risk reports. But he'd mentioned once over beers that he'd helped a coworker confirm an infidelity situation by getting access to office security footage. I called him. Hey man, I said. This is kind of a weird favor. Marcus didn't hesitate. Tell me. I told him everything. Not in detail, but enough. Damn, he said. I'm sorry, Ethan. You sure you want to go down this road? No, I admitted. But I can't keep living in the dark. I need the truth. All of it. He sighed. Let me see what I can do. Within a few days, he had access to Megan's building's visitor logs and security footage from the firm's common areas. Turns out her business trips weren't business at all. She had logged vacation time for multiple days. She claimed she was out of town for conferences. And when Marcus pulled clips from the firm's camera system, there they were, her and Josh, leaving together on Friday evenings, sometimes early in the afternoon, dressed like they were heading out for more than just a work dinner. I shouldn't have to say this, Marcus added, but this stuff, it's solid. If you need it for legal reasons. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Thanks, man. Seriously. Hey, I'm here. Don't let her make you feel crazy. You deserve the truth, not gaslighting. He was right. And it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about reclaiming my reality. I wasn't done. There was one more person I needed to speak to, someone I had never met but who suddenly felt like the only person who could truly understand what I was going through. Josh's wife. It took me a few tries to find her. I had to scroll through Megan's old posts, look at tagged photos, and eventually I found a name, Amanda R. A little more digging and I found her Instagram, then her email listed under a design page she ran. I hesitated before I sent the message. How do you even begin that kind of conversation? Hi, Amanda. You don't know me, but I'm Ethan, Megan's husband. I believe your husband Josh has been having an affair with my wife. I have messages and evidence. I'm not trying to cause drama, but I thought you deserved to know. I didn't know if she'd reply. Maybe she'd block me. Maybe she already knew and chose to look the other way. But the next morning I got an email back. Ethan, I had my suspicions too. Please tell me everything. I didn't sugarcoat it. I sent her *TS of the messages. I didn't include anything explicit, just the stuff that confirmed the relationship. Amanda replied within hours. She was heartbroken but not surprised. Then she dropped a bomb of her own. I have *TS too. Messages from Josh bragging to a friend about how easy it's been sneaking around and saying Megan was the most exciting thing to happen in his marriage in years. My hands were shaking as I read those words. It wasn't just betrayal, it was mockery. They thought they were clever, careful, untouchable. Amanda and I kept talking. Not a lot. Just brief emails and messages. But it helped knowing I wasn't alone. We weren't victims anymore. We were witnesses. And we had evidence. Megan still didn't know what I was doing behind the scenes. She thought the worst was behind us. She kept asking if I wanted to try therapy or if I'd be open to talking with a marriage counselor. I told her I needed time. I told her I wasn't ready. What I didn't tell her was that I was gathering every piece of proof I could. Not for revenge. For closure. One night, about a week later, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, holding my phone, staring at the photos Amanda had sent me. Josh smiling like he'd won some prize. Megan, in one of the outfits I complimented her on a few weeks earlier, curled up next to him on a hotel bed. And in that moment, it all clicked into place. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I was lied to, gaslit, disrespected. But not anymore. It was time to stop asking for honesty and start showing what the truth really looked like. No more doubts. No more pleading. Just facts. And soon everyone would see it for themselves. The truth is a heavy thing. It doesn't set you free the way people say. At least not right away. At first, it buries you under anger, disbelief, grief. It makes you question your judgment, your self-worth, your memory of the life you thought you had. But once the dust settles, it gives you clarity. And with clarity, you start to reclaim control. That's where I was now. I had the messages, the photos, the vacation day logs, the witness in Amanda who was just as determined to expose the lie as I was. And yet, I still hadn't confronted Megan with any of it, not fully. Not directly. Because I didn't want apologies anymore. I wanted consequences. So when the invitation to Megan's company's annual holiday party came in the mail, I knew exactly what I was going to do. It was one of those dress to impress events hosted at a sleek downtown hotel ballroom. Her firm went all out every December, string lights, catered food, a slideshow of projects from the past year. Everyone would be there, her boss, her clients, her coworkers. Including Josh. Perfect. I reached out to Amanda. Asked her if she'd be willing to attend with me. Not to make a scene, not to start drama, but to show the truth. There was a pause before she replied. Let's do it, she wrote. They deserve to be exposed. We spent the next few days preparing, not out of spite, but out of necessity. I gathered everything, *TS printed and labeled, footage segments clipped and transferred to USB, messages dated and categorized. Amanda did the same on her end. We rented a projector. Yes, a literal projector. We didn't want to tell. We wanted to show. The night of the party, I dressed in a charcoal suit Megan had bought me the year before. I hadn't worn it since. Amanda arrived in a black cocktail dress that made heads turn. Her energy was calm, focused. Like me, she wasn't here to get emotional. She was here to put the lie to rest. When we entered the ballroom, the buzz of conversation paused. Heads turned. There was a flicker of confusion, then whispers. Megan hadn't arrived yet. Josh had. He was at the bar, laughing with some junior architect, holding a whiskey neat like he didn't have a care in the world. He didn't see us. Not yet. Amanda and I approached the event coordinator, a woman holding a clipboard and looking stressed. We asked if we could plug into the projector system to show a brief photo montage for the firm's end-of-year recap. She didn't even question it. Just pointed us to the AV table. We waited. Megan walked in 10 minutes later, her arm linked with Josh's. She was glowing, hair curled, red dress that matched her lipstick, laughing at something he said. My stomach turned, but I kept my face calm. Amanda looked at me. You ready? I nodded. Then I walked up to the mic. There's a specific kind of silence that falls over a room when something unexpected happens. When I stepped up to the podium, the MC froze mid-sentence. People turned. A few clapped awkwardly, assuming I was part of the schedule. Megan spotted me then. Her smile faltered. Good evening, I said, my voice steady. I'm Ethan, Megan's husband. That got their attention. And before the end-of-year montage plays, I thought I'd share a few highlights from a different kind of project Megan and Josh have been working on. Gasps. Someone coughed. Someone else said, oh my God. Megan stepped forward, her eyes wide, hand half raised like she might shout something, but it was too late. I clicked play. The screen behind me lit up. Photo after photo. Messages. Meeting times. Selfies. The hotel check-in confirmation with both of their names. The message about our usual room. The timestamped security footage of them leaving work early, hand in hand. The ballroom went dead silent. Megan stood frozen, hand over her mouth. Josh dropped his glass. And Amanda? She stood next to me like a statue, arms crossed, watching her husband's career and image go up in smoke. When the last slide faded, I stepped back to the mic one more time. I guess this explains why Megan's been too busy for dinner lately, I said. And why Josh suddenly became her favorite coworker. No one laughed. No one spoke. Megan finally found her voice. Ethan, please, this isn't fair. You're right, I said. Fair would have been honesty. Fair would have been not lying to me every day for 6 months. Josh tried to speak next, something about keeping it private, but Amanda beat me to it. Oh, now you care about privacy? She said, stepping forward. You didn't seem too concerned about that when you were texting me by mistake last month. More gasps. Then whispers. A few people started filing out, some with their heads down, others staring openly at Megan and Josh. Her boss looked like he was having a stroke. I didn't wait for more. Amanda and I turned and walked out of the ballroom together. As we passed the lobby, I heard Megan call after me. I didn't stop. I didn't turn. The truth had done its job. By the time I got to the parking garage, I finally took a breath that didn't feel heavy. Amanda was quiet beside me, her hands shaking just slightly. Are you okay? I asked. She nodded. I will be. Me too. We didn't speak much the rest of the ride. There wasn't much to say. The silence wasn't painful now, it was peaceful. Clean. The fallout would come tomorrow. But tonight, the lies were done. That night, I packed her suitcase. Neatly. Quietly. With the same methodical care I used to fix things around the house, our house. The one that, up until a few months ago, still felt like ours. Now, every object I touched, her sweater, her perfume, the old t-shirt she wore on lazy Sundays, felt like evidence in a case I no longer needed to argue. She came home just after midnight, mascara smudged, heels in her hand, her voice small. Ethan, please, can we talk? I was sitting on the couch, suitcase beside me. I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. I simply stood, handed her the bag, and said, you can't stay here anymore. She broke. Tears. Please. Apologies. Promises to go to therapy, to quit her job, to start over. She even offered to cut all contact with Josh. But that was the thing, she already had 100 chances to choose me. And every time she didn't. I didn't hate her. But I couldn't trust her. And I wasn't going to give her the space to break me again. No more words, I said. It's done. She lingered in the doorway like she expected me to cave. But I didn't. I waited until I heard her car pull away, then locked the door behind her. For the first time in months, the silence felt like relief. The next morning, I changed the locks. Then I changed the sheets. Took down wedding photos. Donated the gifts we'd collected over anniversaries, birthdays, quiet nights when love felt like it would last forever. I started over. I signed up for cooking classes, something Megan always said she'd join me for but never did. I reconnected with old friends. Guys I hadn't seen in years because I was always too busy trying to make things